Moo and good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Finktron. I am Brent Robinson. I'm joined today by Stef. Stef, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking some homemade soda from the Soda Stream.
Is that a flavored soda stream or just plain sparkling?
It's like a Sprite type flavor.
Little lemon lime. Very nice. Very
Yeah,
nice. We also have
since it's
John.
hot,
Sorry.
since it's hot, it's nice and refreshing.
We also have John Keenan. John, what are you drinking?
Well, I'm bringing the mushrooms again. This one is the Odyssey Dragon Fruit Lemonade. It's the pink can
That sounds
with,
delicious.
yeah, and it's got a nice little, I don't know if that's the actual Tree of Life or Kabbalah thing or what is on their front, but it's pretty tasty. I don't know what dragon fruit really tastes like, but it's I would say sort of papaya adjacent.
My
A
recollection of
little
having had
lemonade.
dragon fruit one time is that it was far more bland than it looked.
Yeah, there's some sort of fruity thing under there, and then lemonade. That's what I'm mostly getting.
Good, good. We also have Sean Bogenberg. Sean, what are you drinking?
Well, it's 11 a.m. somewhere. So I've got a Stone Hazy IPA.
Nice.
Very good. And I just have cherry bubbly. Yeah, so there you go. Two of us on the soda water day stuff. And potentially at some point we won't give him the formal intro or ask him what he's drinking, but at some point Chris Greenland may just drop in here and huff and puff and say hi as he's actually doing race one as we speak, but he's on the call to potentially
I
give
do
us the Climbers Gambit update.
I do feel like he should at least like shake his water bottle in front of us.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
With
we're
all
drinking
the goop
water
in
and
it.
sweat. Here we go.
There it is. There it is. Very good. And speaking of things that'll make you sweaty, HSRL will make you sweaty because this week we
Yeah.
are on uh the Crit City Roost. I can't remember if it's Bell Lap or Downtown Dolphin.
I think it's
Downtown Dolphin.
downtown.
Downtown
Downtown
Dolphin, 12 laps.
With
12.
really, really interesting scoring.
Yep.
Yeah, you
Is
want to
it-
go run through it, Sean?
Yeah, so this week we've got 12 laps with every lap being the preem sprint on every lap being an FAL point. So there are, I think that's right? Is that 12 of them? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it looks like
Yep.
all 12.
Yep.
But there are 2 FTS segments as well, which are worth 4 times as much as any given FAL. And those are laps 4 and 8, right? Yeah, so
Yep.
laps 4 and 8, the fastest time through the lap actually gets you points. And then you've got finish points as well. So there's a pretty interesting balance of point scoring in this. I think most of the points, or I guess it ends up being half and half, right? So half of the points are from the FAL sprints, and then half are from the 2 FTS and the finish.
That sounds right. 100, yeah.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Which I guess the finish is more like a FAL sprint, but yeah,
Yeah,
still there's lots of different stuff going on here. So
that's
12
gonna be
laps.
fun. That's gonna be fun remembering, keeping track for that fourth and that 8th lap if you want to go for FTS while also dealing with the madness of, well, maybe less madness since it's only the sprint that's count. So it's, I assume on those non-FTS laps, it's either going to be crazy or pedestrian in between segments.
Yeah, so I guess like maybe we should just remember that. So the downtown Dolphin direction of Crit City is the one where you're up the little cobble climb for the
Yeah.
sprint section.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's a cobble climb version.
Yeah, so it's kind of just flat and twisty, and then there's kind of like basically a left and a right-hand turn that launches into that segment. And it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter for the segment, except for the finish line of it is just around the right-hand turn at the top of the hill. So
Yeah.
there's kind of like about how long is that segment? Maybe 200 meters, maybe 250 meters with about a 3% grade, I think. Should look that up maybe.
And then for those FTS segments, I think that the strategy really is trying to sneak your way to the back of the group and hope that not everyone is realizing that this is an FTS segment. Because people will have already done 3 or 7 sprints. I don't think that those laps are going to be all out from the lap line. I don't think that people are going to go, super hard for the whole 2 minutes. So even if you're off the back a little bit with a little group of other people who have decided that they're going for those FTS points, a little kick should get you back into the group. But I guess we'll hear from Chris later whether that is actually the way that things went.
Yeah, but because it's going to be interesting because there's in the middle of that those FTS laps, there's still that FAL sprint right in the smack dab in the middle. So
When I said we'll hear from Chris whether that's how it went, he did shake his head no. So
And there's a little bit, there must be a little bit of a lead in on this before the first lap starts, right? I can't remember.
the first sprint, no, you go out of the pen to the left and you start it, and the first sprint is after a kilometer, so halfway through the lap. So
okay, so there's really no appreciable lead in.
no,
that does, yeah. Let's
I
just
assume
say that the FTS. Okay, yeah, that's a little confusing. Because I don't think you go through the banner when you come out of the pens.
You're already past the banner?
No, you when you take a left, the lap banner is on your right. So yeah.
So is that your first lap or is that a lead in?
I think it counts as a first lap still, even though you don't do really a full lap. I think it counts still as lap 1 on Crit Cities.
It will
but don't quote me on it.
Yeah, it will just be interesting how basically whether it's the 3rd full lap or the 4th full lap that actually ends up getting counted for the FTS. Well, I guess the other interesting thing is like, is the FAL at the preem and the fastest through on that lap count in the same lap?
Yeah, it is. That's what I say, because that FTS starts at 5.8, so that's after about 3 laps. Well, a bit less than 3 laps because of how you start, but then it's a kilometer after that. It's the sprint, and then a kilometer after that you finish the segment. So I think how Marianne put it for the FTS, I think that's the start of the FTS segment. So yeah, it's gonna be, like I said, on those laps, you have on laps 4 and 8, you start the sprint, you start your FTS lap, but smack dab in the middle of it, you still have an FAL sprint to contest through. So yeah.
Yeah, so you've got to go from racing off the front of the sprint and then like somehow dog it all the way back during the downhill to the front of the line.
You're right.
And then try and like get back, get competitive by the time you get to the sprint, because man, it's a pretty short sprint. So trying to go from like all the way at the back to the front of the line is gonna be awfully challenging. So
yeah,
then I guess you just go. That's a 1 point, 1 point per place on the FALs. I don't think that it is worth challenging FAL on the tracks. I think that you start from behind the group, or at the back of the group, get as far up the group as you can, and then
I think that if you are in that front group, you're gonna, you know, you don't do your 100%. Obviously, none of these sprints are going to be 100% because you're doing them every 2K. But I think that you do 90% of what you would normally do to keep contact with the people
Yeah, no,
who are sprinting, and then just try and get to the line for that lap with the front, because there's 4 points per place for the FTS on those.
Yeah.
So if you think that you're going to gain more places through FTS, then you lose. Like, okay,
Yeah.
if you gain 1 point or 1 place by going for FTS, you can lose up to 4 places on the FAL sprint and still come out ahead on the.
Yeah, if you play it tactically on those 2 laps and able to get full points and maybe lose a couple of points in those segment in a couple of those segments, it's not really that big of a deal.
I'd be telling the top 4 or 5 riders in my group that we should go for it. Like, don't lay off after you go for the sprint. Let's sprint and then let's go and try and, like, if guys are gonna dog it in the sprint and try and cruise through, like, let's just press up and beat them to the line.
Mhm.
So anyway, I think full arrow is the bike choice.
Yeah,
'Cause it's
that
so many of
hill
the splits.
that hill is like you said, is pretty short and not that steep, so fastest thing you got.
Maybe with that new Cervelo 24.
Oh, is there a new bike?
There's also the new Canyon Arrow 2024, but I don't know that it's that.
Sorry, that's the one that I meant. Yeah, the
Okay, is that more arrow than like the Venge and stuff?
it is not quite, but it is
Okay,
quite a bit
climbing.
climbing.
Yeah.
Like 1 second slower. It's essentially the same as the Venge on the flats, or as the
Mhm.
Velo, but a bit climbier.
Oh, I might switch to a new bike. I'm new for it.
And I think you can get that at a low-ish level, like a level
Oh,
10, I think is the intro.
I know the previous version of the arrow was pretty low, but then with the changing in
Available to 10.
the upping of levels, I think they moved it up a bit. The old version, the 22 version or whatever it was. So yeah,
I'm assuming this is related to Zwift's co-sponsorship of a Tour de France Femme avec Zwift team with Canyon, but
yeah.
Yeah.
And
rolling out.
there are special paint jobs that you can get for the bike if you do Zwift Academy. So I'm imagining that Brent is going to do it just so he gets a fancy looking bike to go along with his rainbow disc wheels.
I wonder if the paint job will affect the rainbow disc. Like, can you affect the wheels by painting the frame? I don't know.
Don't think so, but
No.
it is a pretty good looking frame paint job once they if you end up doing that.
I wasn't that
I think
motivated for Zwift Academy, but now I'm totally doing it.
Yeah. They know how to gamify.
Also, way to for people to use their drops on something. Because I a while back I bought the KDEX, so I think only my drops is going up and not spending that much anymore.
Cool.
Very good. Sorry, now I fell down the rabbit hole looking at the Canyon Arrow test times and everything else. So made a mistake. Anyway. All right. That brings us to Herd Beginner Racing this week.
It's Centum Sequoias with the adapted bands or race scoring bands. I think previously it was up to 550, I think, and now it's the highest is 475. Still 5 categories. Lowest one up to 150, then second one up to 250, and the 3 highest are 75 points scores wide. And I think it's either for the 3 lowest categories up to like 325, it's 1 lap of sand and sequoias, which is a nice course. But the 2 highest, it's 2 laps, so that's going to be a long race almost. 43 Ks for those 2 higher categories. And basically the course is you start at the desert pens, go to the desert sprint through the desert up to called the Saddle Springs, into Titans. Titans go forward, well, the longer version, back down to the desert. Finish at the desert pens on lap 1, and for those 3 lowest categories and for the 2 highest, you do another lap. And I think, yeah, Titans Grove is going to be the breaking point, both with the KOM but also with the rollers. I haven't ridden HBR with the new categories, so was maybe planning to do it last week. I don't know if I want to do it this week with a 40K race, because I'm just in that second highest band, only by 5 points, but whatever.
Well, you can join me, Steph. I'm the only one signed up right now in my band, and that looks like a long, lonely race, 43K almost.
Yeah.
And it is going to break up, like you say. It'll break up once and then break up more on the second rise up Titans. KOM,
Yeah.
so I don't, and then I mean there's still the sprint, dead flat sprint finish, so it's going to be challenging.
Yeah, I'm wondering with those 2 higher categories, because on those 3 the 3 lowest categories, Titans Grove is gonna be the decider or the breaking point. But on for those, when you do 2 laps, you have Titans Grove, but then you have that whole desert flat section again. So it's,
Yeah.
if you want to push it, you can maybe break some people. I think lap 1 for those 2 highest categories is more seeing who falls off and keep them at bay, rather than try to break away on Titans Grove, because otherwise you're going to be in for a rough ride if you on that flat section through the desert.
Yeah, if you're a climber and you try to break away on the first climb, I think people pushing bigger watts are just going to catch you by the time you get to it again the second go around. So maybe there won't be too much breaking up that first go up the KOM.
Yeah.
But it looks like a great course for the new bike.
Yeah. If it's 43K, that's over an hour a ride. An hour 10, hour 20 maybe, depending on how fast it goes. So it's a long race, especially for HBR standards.
Yeah.
But overall, Santa Sequoia is nice for if it were like with the olden days with the beginner racing, it was a perfect course because it has a bit of everything to teach you as a new racer in Zwift.
Yep. Good.
Also
Well,
a popular choice in ladder races for that reason.
then
Popular course that gets used from time to time.
the turnouts have been good with the racing scoring. As much
Yeah.
as racing scoring maybe getting a mixed reviews, I think we could say, in the community right now. I don't think there's too many all-out negatives. I think in this group it's been quite positively received. So
I think
Yeah.
most of the negative comments are people who are used to winning and then realizing that their ungodly 30-second power or big watts with lower watts per kilo are putting them in a higher category that they no longer get to just auto win in.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um,
because if you're on those higher, even with the like I think you said when I was on holiday, with when it was 550 there, or on those, if you were there with a maybe a good sprint but lower watts, you were mixed with high C's, B's who can push like 3.5 watts or more. So yeah, then that's not gonna cut it with your low watts over 20-minute power with a big sprint at the end.
I haven't
Yeah,
done
yeah.
any of those races, and yet somehow my Zwift Racing score is still over 600 now.
yeah.
Oh my
I
gosh.
guess the seed score must have gone up from doing the other stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, but yeah, I wasn't here for the last few weeks, but I saw the posts from time to time from Nate and with the results, and it's definitely, since it's in Zwift Labs, it's more populated than it's ever yeah, that I have ever seen it be. But I think the scoring in general is I think still probably needs to be tweaked out. But yeah, like I think, like I said it before, it takes a couple of races to get your seeding down. It's the same with Zwift Racing app scoring, and that's that scoring doing a lot of races seems pretty on point.
So does your score change if you're not doing a Zwift Labs race? So if you're just doing a Climbers
I think
Gambit or
I,
HSRL or no?
I think now not, your scores changes. I think in those Swift Lab races, or when it detects yeah, like your seeding score. If you, I don't know if you do, it was based on that 10-minute and 30-second power. If that improves, maybe that gives you up, because that's how it's done in with your Zwift Racing app score. If you have if your CS score, or basically your 5-minute power or whatever, for if you do improve that, you get a bump up in your Zwift Racing score, Zwift Racing apps score as well. So when you do, well, basically those are pretty much every race except a couple of like TTTs or chase races. But
Short answer, no. And that's part of the broader problem with Swift Racing Score at this point, is that
yeah,
it needs to, like, they're testing it now, and once they get it to a point where they're comfortable with it and expand it to the broader community, I think that's when people start getting scores that make sense for them.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And all the
Yeah,
ones
if
they're
it-
testing it on lab are scratch races, yeah. Yeah, I think that's also part of the trick. Is so much of the racing on Zwift is not a scratch race. Good, good. All right, that brings us to Climber's Gambit, which Chris looks like he's saying we're
Stretch it out, stretch it out. Well, I do see Chris has got a lot of good madness scheduled for us over the next 5 weeks. It looks like
Yeah,
he's calling
so
it slow is fast, but I propose a secondary title of Double Double Toil and Trouble.
toilet trouble?
Toil and trouble.
It's Shakespearean, man.
Hopefully not that. Hopefully not that.
Oh no, I've got double toilet trouble.
You might have that
Yeah.
after you do some of these races too, but
That's a different
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, so the slow is fast edition. So we've got 5 weeks of of repeats with your slower time counting. So what we learned from the last 2 weeks of racing up the rooftop KOM will come in handy for pacing these climbs. This week is the one where you have to do the most climbs, but it's still really 2 efforts that you need to pace well. We're on, what is the actual
Maybe.
course? It's
Yeah.
In the scare.
City and the
City and
Stir.
the Skur, right? Where you do the gravel climb twice and the road climb twice, but your slowest of those 4 climbs is the one that counts. Which means you're going to be setting that slowest time if you pace things well on the gravel climb, but you still need to go fast enough up the road climb that it's not your slowest score. You can't just twiddle your thumbs up that and do, a 5-6 minute time up that. You still need to probably do sweet spot threshold up that side in order to get in under your gravel climb time.
Yeah, it's a fun one, in pacing. First was thinking it was maybe your slowest time on one on each side, but if it's the slowest on everyone, that's interesting with indeed having that road climb. Basically, this should be the shorter one, but you want to indeed pace it not fully, but also not too slow. So, but it's kind of a bit of a quote unquote recovery. You're still pushing it, but you still need to, like I said, you still need to make sure that's not going to be your slowest time.
Well, and I think the next thing you're going to get into is bike choice, because I would I would start on a gravel bike.
Absolutely.
I would start on a gravel bike, and then I would swap to a road bike at the bottom, because I guess you could take a
Blimey.
TT, but I think it's just a road like Tron or something, and then ride it back across the top. And then I think right at the top, as soon as I went through the banner, hopefully if I could get it to stop fast enough before it started descending, I would swap back onto the gravel one. You could do it at the bottom; it doesn't really matter. But
Yeah, I was about to say it's Climbers Gambit, so you can,
I think
unless you
gravel.
want to take some speed into you still have that roundabout at the bottom. You want to take some speed into going into that second effort of the gravel side.
So, just looking at some of my past efforts on these, that south side, the road side, is considerably shorter. So you can do. So I've done. It's actually shorter even than this because. Anyway, so this shorter side, like you can do at sweet spot and get pretty, like you can do it faster than your VO2 effort up on the gravel side. So I don't think you need to overpace that roadside. I do think that extra little bit of recovery that you get from doing a bike swap and then being able to kind of not have to go quite as hard up that roadside to make sure you're getting a good time is probably a good decision. But I mean, you could even swap back to the gravel. You can ideally you swap at the top, but worst case scenario you swap at the bottom and you're still in decent shape for that second climb.
I think from where that Zgur start is, like, depending on your setup, like you could almost roll it from the bottom of that Zgur all the way around all the way, like, hit the pairing button as soon as you pass that line on the way back down the bottom, but it would get close to that start line. You'd have to start punching it hard from there to get up to speed when you start that segment. That's why I'd swap at the top if I could.
Or you have Zwift plays and break instantly, and you're stopped in like 2 seconds.
If you have brakes, that helps all of it for sure. Other than that, yeah, I think it's like as hard as you, well, like a 95 to 98% effort on gravel one, as hard as it takes to get it. Like I'm a 3 minute up the Zgur on my fastest gravel Zgur north, and only a 2 minute, on Zgur south. So it's like watch the clock and go as hard as you need to be under your time on Zgur north, and then recover, 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 and then as hard as you absolutely can on the last one till your eyes fall out of your head. And
I'll
then
probably
Oh.
note down my Skur South wattage that I'll want to not go below just to make sure I don't
Yep.
slip that one in.
yeah, and then just make sure you get back up on the last one faster, or at least close. If you're
Yeah.
really tired, like, and you give up one more second, you probably really, really killed it on another one. So, and then celebrate. Yeah, it's funny because of course you're gonna find the route doesn't start till after you've done that first skirt, right? Because that's the lead in. The lead in is
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
pens down
yeah.
to um the first top of the skirt, and then so basically it is like the full route.
Also, I was really impressed, John, with you. I think was it? I think it was last week's performance. Your times were like within a second of you. Those 4 times were within a second of each other.
Oh, that
Yeah,
was that was Sean. That was
In
amazing.
half a second.
Yeah,
yeah. That was
that
talk
was
about consistency.
surgical.
Now, I mean, you must have known the time from your first one, right? So
I knew the time, but uh, I didn't pace it differently than I had planned.
yeah, that's why
And it was
basically
actually all of those were also very close to times that I had done the previous week. And that was the thing that I based it off was like knowing what those times look like when you were coming down I mean, we talked about this last week that the descent versus starting from the flat part was the biggest determinant in how you could get those times down. And so the big difference was just like getting up to speed early on the first one, putting a lot more effort into the first one, and then carrying speed on the final three.
yeah, because when you get to like the end of the subsequent ones, like if you're faster, like you know what I mean? Like if you're close to it, you can kind of, all right, I'm not going to be slower than that, so I can kind of shut her down a bit and cruise in.
But it doesn't give you an estimated time on that segment
Oh,
until you're like,
so you got to be
I
like
didn't know what
maybe
those times were going to be until I was there.
at best, like once you got to that flat part for the U-turn, that would be the soonest you probably could have started to lay off. Interesting. Interesting.
I was shocked every time. It was like, oh, I just did it again.
Right, because they went down by 2/10 your first three. So that would have shown up in the like where you were in the
Yeah.
on the segment. But then that last one was a little slower, so you didn't really know until you logged out, essentially.
Yeah,
Interesting.
fun.
Cool.
I really
really
like
sucks.
this way of doing things, Chris.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try and find time. I think I'll try and find time to get into the Climbers Gambit for this next series because I've already missed too many stampedes from doing other things, and so a fresh new series and find the schedule and get into it because this is interesting.
Yeah, so just for the 5 weeks, it's City in the Skur, and then 2 times up Yorkshire Reverse on Tour of Two at Well, Temple Forward 2 times on Kappa Quest, Temple Reverse 2 times on Kappa Quest Reverse, and then New York KOM Forward on the High Line. So a bunch of 2 to 8, 10-minute climbs that you've got to get well paced.
I would have replaced one of those temples with a box, but
Those were put in there.
Probably-
Brent.
I know. Well, I should probably practice doing that god awful thing. So
Yeah,
Fair
I
enough.
think Fox probably just doesn't have a course
This
that's
doesn't have a loop that
short
loops
enough
back
that
to it.
loop. Yeah.
That was the thing. The final week was already a lengthy one at the, what was that, 22 on the high line. I didn't want to stick in a couple over the 20 mark in the spirit of efficiency.
Yeah, that's fair. There's no good route to set that up. That's fair.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, good works on that. Are you cooling down now, Chris?
Oh yeah.
Attaboy.
Cooling, puking,
Uh,
toilet trouble. It's all the same thing.
How many fastest laps did you get?
Um, is there a number less than 0 in HSRL scoring?
Hey, you want to give us the live race report?
Yeah, I mean, this race in 60 seconds or less. For me personally, fitness is down, weight is up, top end is non-existent. So somewhere early on, I got dropped out of the front B group and was looking for a bigger C group behind to pull me around, especially on laps 4 and 8. And that just never really materialized. So out of a group, I think we were 18 Bs. I'm estimating a P12 finish, but good sweat. My shoes are full. Just didn't play out the way I'd hoped.
Cool. Good stuff. All right. The Stampede this week is a lap of Innsbruck Ring. So our world tour continues. We are in Austria. The Innsbruck Ring course is mostly pretty flat. So you take off from the pens, go through the town. There's a bit of a 2% kind of slow grinders. You go across the overpass, head towards little downtowny cobbly part. There's a little downhill there, and then you're gonna hit the leg snapper. So you're gonna want to punch it hard up the leg snapper. There's a little downhill there, and then there's a little toe snapper you're gonna want to do a little punch on, and then basically once you get down to the bottom of the toe snapper by the sprint, you're gonna want to try and start emptying the tank there. I think it's only about 1.8 kilometers from the bottom of the toe snapper to the finish. So 9K should take you about B's, I think will be 13 minutes, maybe 14 minutes, I think is an Innsbruck ring time. A's will probably be faster than that. C's and D's will be up over 15, I would think, but probably won't get up to 20. I'd be surprised if most people take 20 to go. So
I'm just looking at what next week's. I'm assuming Bullseye's still in Bullseye mode.
yep.
a mountain goats, you see probably Saturday or Sunday which race it's going to be, because it's always at this time still the route of last week, which was fantastic.
So I'm looking at what next week's HSRL is, and that's going to be brutal. So
Oh yeah,
it is a points race on Eats a Party, which means 4 climb segments and 4 sprints, but it ends with that double Mayan Mountainside Eats a KOM. I don't know yet what that what the points look like for that. And I mean, if it's anything like this week, it could be all FTS. It could be a mix of FTS and FAL. We'll see, but that's a lot of hard racing. Having raced this as a scratch race, even that's hard. So I imagine as a points race, it'll be brutal.
but technically, I don't. Since it finishes on top of the ITSA KOM, that's only going to be a finish points because you can't have FTS, and FAL is basically the same as finish points. So maybe Mayan as FTS or Titans Grove or whatever. We'll see.
Yeah.
Could be very devious. All right. And that is the week of herd racing, which will bring us to Round the Horn, which we got an announcement this week that the Zwift Racing League put on by WTRL is back. It's back in September 10th. You will see posts going up about sign up if you want to do ZRL. I know the ZRL captains chat is heating up. My Mustangs B team is starting to chat about getting our team together. So that will all be happening. Signups opened up today. And yeah, I guess who's here is thinking about doing ZRL? I will probably do ZRL again because I do find it fun. As much as I will probably grump that it's still going to be 30 degrees out in September, ZRL is fun. It's fun to group, fun to be on a team, fun to do stuff, fun to compete week to week. So
Yeah, fun to have a consistent thing on a Tuesday that you want to bury yourself for.
Mhm.
hopefully it'll motivate me to maybe do some training from now for the next 5 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, the timing works really well for me because there's something, what would that be? The weekend before race 5 that I'm potentially training for. So like get some intensity in before that. But uh the I mean it's the kind of classic CRL schedule. You've got 2 TTTs, 2 points races, 2 scratch races. Um,
but yeah, I'm not. I'm still debating. Maybe I will do ZRL, but I probably need to change team because I want to race a bit earlier. Because now I've been with a team. My last C team was racing at like 8 p.m. my time, which wasn't too bad, except for the last for the final races, which was really late. I think last race started for me at like 9 p.m. and that's a bit too late. Or I don't know if there's gonna be a team, but if there's gonna be a format for DRS, some kind of format based on the medal rankings. Maybe do that because like how Steve put it, you can race with a team, but only like you start with how many riders you want, but only a certain the highest 4 get points. But yeah, the season, the round 1 looks interesting. It's like you said, the same as last year, but they changed up they reversed it because I know it was in the past it was scratch points TT, and now it's basically the reverse of that. First TT, then points, then scratch.
I like this better. I didn't like the end race being a TTT myself. I don't know. Felt anticlimactic, I guess, in some ways. Guess it all depends. But yeah, so the route list is week 1 is a TTT on Douce France, which is the flat bit of France. Fair enough. Race 2 is Sugar Cookie for points, which will be
That's
interesting. 4 sprints
yeah,
along the new roads, basically, right? You start up at Jungle Pens, go down through the jungle, and then you do all 4 of the sprint segments along the new coastal roads. I'm gonna still call them new. They seem new enough. And then the finish after you get that last sprint is you're gonna come out of the desert, go up to Col du Saddle Springs, and you're gonna go over towards the marina, and then do the climb that goes up into the start of where I guess it's Epic Reverse. I think
yeah,
Epic Reverse would be that one.
yeah. It's epic forward, and then you do the epic bypass until the jungle pans again.
And then finish in the jungle. The finish is at the jungle banner. So you gotta go that whole descent down the jungle banner still.
Yeah,
So even if
true.
people break it on that climb, there's a lot of chase to get to that
there,
finish
Yeah.
line.
it's going to break considerably though. Like that's a long enough, steep enough climb that there's going to be some pretty big splits after 4 sprints.
Yeah, and people are gonna push it really. Especially the lighter weight riders with the higher watts per kilo is gonna certainly want to try to push it maybe there if they can.
Yeah, I think it's not gonna break up along the sprints until that climb, but guess
Yeah.
we'll see.
And their points system is generally pretty limited set, right? Like the top 20-ish, 10-ish people get
We'll,
points.
we'll see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that
they've
has
changed
been
it
the
around,
style,
I
so I
think.
guess we'll see. And then the next
Yeah,
one is
and
a scratcher on Country Coastal.
yeah, and also with those points, I don't know if they're gonna do like combinations like they did with the summer thing, with a combination of FTS, FAL segments. Yeah,
Mhm.
I see it already in the schedule that they have both mentioned, so it's going to be interesting if they so
And was
potentially
this the
sprint can be.
series that did the 4-person TTT at the end of last season? Because that
Yeah,
was
it was a four
really, that
person.
was cruel. 4 is too few. I did not recover
I have a
from
feeling
my
that
fall.
was because it was the summer series that
Was
they
that what it
didn't
was?
have enough. They didn't
No,
want to make it so that you had to have a full
6.
complement of
Okay.
riders.
Yeah, that was right. That was just for the playoffs, which had been delayed for like Zwift World Games or whatever the heck
Yeah,
that other
yeah,
thing
that's
was.
right. It was sort of
Yeah.
early summer, late spring.
Yeah. So then, yeah, we got Scratch Race on Country Coastal, which is kind of the Umezi plus Urakazi parts of McCurry Islands, basically.
Yeah, that one will be interesting because it does have those two, like the two Urakasi climbs, including the climb back out and then finishes with that steep kick at the end.
Yeah, it's gonna have that terrible, terrible start, and then all downhill for the next 15 kilometers. A
oh
bit,
yeah, I
bit of
was
a
about to
tough
say
push on Shisa.
it's a downhill sprint, but it's the other way around where you end up on that where you have the two banners and it's the second banner of the steep hill.
And then that grind up through the canyon, right? Or is it the cave or the canyon?
It's the canyon. Yeah.
Okay. Oh right, cave is into the city. Right, right.
Ooh, TTT is going to be interesting.
Yeah, there we go. We
Yeah.
got
So
Greater London 8 TTT, which that goes up
In
in Surrey, right?
Box, it goes up Box Hill.
so that's hard keeping that group together, where you've got still a few K to the finish.
Mhm.
I don't mind an interesting TTT. That's good. Something that changes up from the straight
Yeah.
flats. And then we've got points on Glyph Heights, which
Also
sounds
brutal.
brutal. Yep. That's what I was
It's
gonna say.
it's brutal, but it's interesting because if I remember, yeah, all the sprints, all the point segments, you're done basically before you start because you have, I think, you have two sprints on the lead in, and then you have the double climb, and there the point segments, and you still have to go up second part of the grades, epic KOM tops down. Oh no, down epic reverse through the jungle and finish up on, I think, Mayan.
Yep.
But that,
Just
yeah, but
Mayan.
that's gonna be finish points. That's not. So depending how they do it, it's
Oh right.
yeah.
But
So
yeah,
so so
20K,
all the
20K
segments have,
time to finish, like with that is all scratch.
yeah. Yeah, the first half, like the first, I don't know, 15 to, it's not 20K at least, but it's going to be around 20Ks. You have done most of the sprint, most of the segments, and then it's still you need to drag yourself up to up the grades and up epic KOM, and that's final second. It's going to be an interesting one how that's going to be paced and
We
how
did this in
and what the and how those, like I said, how those segments, if segments are FTS, FAL, or combination of both.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether people are, because the sprints start that one it'll be interesting to see how much people put into those sprints before you've got to do the difficult climbing that's going to both be points and then also split up the race for the finish.
Well,
Having,
here's something that I don't know the answer to, and I don't know that anyone does yet, is on these segments that are split, can you do an FAL at a banner, even though you're not doing the full segment? Like, can they put an FAL at the top of the grade?
No,
Mm.
I
I
don't.
don't know.
it doesn't show up in the in Zwift Power.
But they don't use Swift power.
I That's fair. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, like I think that is interesting, right? Because if you put like a fastest through Mayan, a fastest through Itza, and then a first across the line at the top of the grade, that
Yeah.
is cool.
Technically, you can also put it. I don't know if you can still, with that logic, you can also put a FAL on top of Epic.
Yep. Or I think I don't remember if you go through the jungle banner that direction.
No, you
No,
don't
you
go
don't
to.
go
You
through jungle
go
banner.
to the. If you go into the jungle, you go left, so you don't pass the jungle pants. The jungle lab banner, you
The
don't
jungle
pass
banner.
it.
Yep. So
Having just done this in HSRL a couple weeks ago, I know just how much you can explode over the last 15K uh, after climbing uh, max effort up the grade and
Mhm.
KOM. I lost a minute to somebody that was behind me from the top of the KOM to the base of the jungle. Uh,
well, it was last weekend, wasn't it? Wasn't this
Yeah,
the
yeah, it
yeah,
was
HSRL
just
last
last
weekend?
weekend. I think it's a very different race between a solo race and a team race. Like on a team, you can be like, I'm the sprinter, I'm going to do the first couple sprints, and you guys have at it on the climb, and you could have your climbing team, and and then yeah, what do you do on the downhill? You might sit at the top and wait for a couple teammates to get a group to go down and see what you can do. It's really interesting.
Yeah, how those points get set up, I think will make a big difference on that one.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
the
and
because
last,
I like.
the final race is
well, they sort of already specifically put a post that is not
okay.
exactly what the final race is. So what it's currently showing now is a lap of volcano circuit for 6.9 kilometers, but there is a specific note from WTRL because someone did ask that at the Facebook group and they said stay tuned for more details. So
Yeah, that will
Yeah,
be
but
really interesting to basically finish the series with a tiny race.
Yeah.
yeah, it would be interesting, but it'll be something different. I think I don't know what it'll be, but I think it will be some sort of scratch, but I think it will be multiple laps or maybe some sort of different scoring mechanism on the scratch where like, your worst rider scores on the fifth lap and the next guy scores in the sixth lap and the next guy scores in something crazy like that. So
Yeah, that would be really interesting.
yeah,
yeah.
I remember. Yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah, it's probably that because I remember in the summer version that they also put something up there that was like, oh, 1K on whatever on a certain route, 1K TT. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting because I remember way back with one of the mandatory races and ladder races, they did basically your whoever gets their I think it was a third or fourth rider was the decider. So your third or fourth rider, if your third or fourth rider beats your opponent's third or fourth rider, your team wins. That was basically one of the setups of the mandatory races and ladder races. So can be done if they can track like your whatever your what do a scratch race and have your bit like a TTT, have your see where your X amount of rider finishes in comparison to the X amount of rider of certain team. But who knows?
Yeah,
Well,
who knows
hopefully.
indeed. Did I tell you my story about HSRL last weekend? How I ended up getting on the podium of that one? So
No.
I
Hmm.
I was in the group across mine and Itza, and then there was one guy who he put like 5 seconds into the whole group. And it's kind of like one of those things where you're like, all right, dude, we're doing the grade next. Like if you're putting 5 seconds to us and you're gonna beat us, you go ahead. And they ended up putting a minute into us across the grade. So like he was gone. He was gone. We never saw him for the rest of the race. But the rest of us were mostly together. I kind of probably fell back to like fourth or fifth spot at the start of the grade, and then ended up coming up second at the top of the grade. Like I caught like two guys like in the last two switchbacks, so they had kind of faded hard. And then I was with like an A and maybe two C's, and so I kind of like dogged it a bit to try and like get a little group across Epic. That all blew right up, and we all got caught up. So then there was like five of us at the top of Epic. And then on the descent, I put 15 seconds into those guys. I just like sprinted off the start, and then every time I went uphill, I sprinted as hard as I could, and like they just fell back. And so I was like 15 seconds, and I think I might have got as high as like 20 seconds on the group going down through the jungle. So now I'm like solo TT all the way through the jungle, and at the they started to close the gap a bit, and then at the bridge, one guy went off and attacked, and he bridged up to me on that bridge. Like he like smashed it across like a little bit of uphill dirt that goes into that bridge, and then caught me in that bridge at the right after we got across it. And so then there was the two of us, and then we were like, we had to hold off the group behind us, and like we were cat and mousing it a bit. And we went into the last little bit of mine. I put like a pretty hard dig, and I'd opened up about a 20-meter gap on him. And I was like, oh, maybe I've got him. And then he unleashed his like 11 watt per kilo sprint as soon as we got on the flat. He went past me. I was like, oh, okay. So I got third, but it was a good race. Like I said, the attack on the descent was like, all right, if you guys aren't gonna like go a little bit, like I'm just gonna keep going.
Were they just super tucking on the descent on Epic? Is that
I
what was
think
going
they
on?
must
And
have
then
been. I think they must have
because
been.
there's those two little rises that like it just shuts you down, and yeah, if you're not
Yep.
hitting it hard.
Yep. And I mean, I was perfectly happy for them to come with me. I was hoping we would actually maybe the guy who was solo up front would die. I mean, the guy is now an A, so he was not dying, but
Yeah.
you know, but like I just sprinted as soon as we got to like the first downhill. We hit that first little up, hammered it, hit the next one, hammered. But yeah, there's about three or four of them that you just gotta like goose it, and then away I went. So it was fun. It was a good race. UC is a very, very good sprinter. Next time I will, if I remember racing him again, I will not wait to the line. I will be pressing him to like make something happen earlier on. Good. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
I after my vacation, I did a ladder race on Wednesday. Sadly, it didn't end up how I wanted to be. We were racing another team on the park perimeter loop. We were pushing it hard on the first Harlem Mill because one of their strongest rider was dropping off of the bit. We're pushing them wet. Two of them dropped, and then my trainer disconnected on the worst moment, and I had like it took 5 minutes to get it connected back, so it was race over for me. Luckily, my teammates took one a full podium to get the win, but yeah,
that's no fun.
Yeah, because I was really feeling strong, and probably could have been with them. Maybe who knows? It could have been even a 1, 2, 3, 4, but
yeah, and now
that's
Chris,
life.
I think we just need to give this visual to like the people listening at home.
Yeah.
Is that Chris has finished his race, gone and sat in the pool, chilled out, and is now like sitting outside in the sun, soaking up rays like it's nobody's business.
Yeah, contemplating a life. What have I done?
A little bit of recovery here in the sun.
Chris, I think there's just one question we have to ask. What are you drinking?
I'm out of Miller Lite. I am instead drinking this lemon lime. I've never heard of this. It's a sparkling water Talking Rain, but it's in my fridge for some reason. But it's a lemon lime sparkling water.
Cool. Well,
yeah,
I think that covers it for the week. So we will say thank you to Stef at Jen. Thank you to Sean Fogenberg. Thank you to John Keenan. Thank you to Chris Greenland. Thank you to everyone listening at home. Thank you to everyone who's doing their herd races this weekend. Enjoy your Zwifting, everybody. Moo and good night.
Right.
Bye.